I've gotten a lot of comments about using ds4windows, mainly a bunch of questions about the right stick not working, things like that. So I'm just going to go over really in depth about this software and using it in Valorant. So the first thing you want to do before anything is to make sure that the version of ds4windows you have is by Ryochan 7, which you can download here, and if you need to know how, you just search Ryochan 7 ds4windows. It's going to be this first link right here. You're going to scroll down to where it says main builds of ds4windows and click, and then you're going to download this top one that says ds4windows 3.0.1864.zip. Alright, once you get in the software, you're just going to plug in your controller or Bluetooth it, whichever you prefer, and it's going to have a default profile. You just click profiles, new profile, and then it's going to take you to a page that looks like this. You can name it right here, and you can set all your binds right here. The way you set a keybind is just click on the button you want and then click on what button you want it to be on the keyboard. Alright, before you do any of that, go to settings, click on controller/driver setup. Make sure to install VIGEM bus driver and then install Fakerinput driver. This one's very important. Alright, so when you're in the config, you're just gonna set all the keybinds you want, and let me show you some specific things that you need to do. In every direction of the right stick, up, down, left, and right, you're going to click on it, set the mouse direction, and then you're going to check this box, change mouse sensitivity, and set this number to 255. You're going to do that in all 4 directions. The next thing you're going to do is go to axis config. You're going to set the dead zone to the left stick to 0.08. Change the anti-dead zone to 0. Scroll down to outer bind, set this to left shift, and change outer bind dead zone to 0.9. On the right stick, you're going to set the dead zone to the lowest that you're comfortable with. Start with 0.05, and if it's drifting, go up. You're going to set anti-dead zone to 0 as well. You're going to set vertical scale to 0.5 or 0.4. You're going to set output curve to quadratic or enhanced precision, whichever one feels more comfortable for you. And then you're going to go over to the touchpad and you're going to set it to controls. Then go over to the gyro tab. You're going to set the trigger to whatever you want, or you can leave it on default. And if you set a button, make sure to uncheck this box, but if you don't set a button, make sure to leave this box checked. You're going to leave the gyro sensitivity at 100. Set the dead zone to 25, minimum threshold to 1.0, and make sure all of these are off. Alright, another thing you're going to do is open your settings, go to your language settings, edit language and keyboard options. Make sure you have this set to English United States or English United Kingdom. It does not matter, but if you have it set to a foreign language, it will mess with your keybinds in Valorant. So you can set any of these buttons to whatever you want, but let me show you a couple of advanced things that you can do to get more buttons out of your controller. The first thing is, if you want a button to do 2 things, you're going to set whatever you want it to do. Then you're going to go to shift modifier and then set whatever else you want it to do. So for example, I have my square set to press X, but on shift modifier, I have it to press this right bracket here. And then you just click on the button you want it to modify by. For example, if you set this to up, then when you hold up on the D-pad and then press square, it'll press this button. Another thing you can do is go to special actions, go to new actions, set the trigger, and then set an action for what it does. So press toggle key, and then you can have one button do 2 things, for example, or you can set multiple key presses to do one thing. Or you can use new buttons like the mute button. A very important step right here is when you're starting Valorant, you should move the controller the whole time that it's starting. And if your mouse stops moving or gets stuck in the corner, that means you did not follow one of the steps correctly. So make sure and go back and see if you have Fakerinput installed correctly. Alright, here are the important in-game settings. The sensitivity, I set this to 0.4. But you might set this to 0.3 if you're using a PS4 controller. On controls, set default movement mode to walk and toggle crouch, turn that on. equipment, set these both to hold, and then after that you should be able to play Valorant on the controller. One thing to note is that there's no acceleration for the gyro, so it will feel really slow, so you will have to rely on the stick a lot, and the stick in ds4windows feels really clunky, so it turns way too fast, but you can't really turn super fast. If you're trying to get used to the gyro, make sure you come to the range just to practice, and then pick a corner, just stand in it, and just try to shoot the bots like this. The only time you're actually going to use the gyro is whenever you see somebody, and then you're going to flick on them with the gyro. Most of the time you're just going to use the stick like this because the gyro is way too slow to actually aim with. So for example, if I come over to these bots and I try to flick with the gyro, it's just way too hard. So you're going to just want to flick with the stick and then adjust with the gyro like this. And one thing to note is that if you're holding down the stick, it will disable the gyro, so no matter what, if the stick's being touched, then the gyro just won't work.